Okay, third time is the charm. I don't know why this didn't occur to me before, but, you know, let's get our handy-dandy caliper, shall we? We are assuming that the watch was flat to the plane, but even if it was off one way or the other, literally the widths are different. Like, the width of the color is different. Why don't we do an inside measure? And I'm pointing from center to center, or trying to. I call that good. So 3.4 millimeters. Yeah, it's definitely wider than it had been, so now let's drop it.
What? How is that possible?
2 millimeters to 3 millimeters? It wasn't even a full millimeter difference.
No, I know, but it's like, I expected like the first one to be 3.4 and the other one to be like, I don't know, 3.25, and you were just being, I don't know.
Okay, well, let's do it the other way. Let's do it the cool way that the cool kids do it. Let's go the outside calipers, huh? Hell, I mean, if you want to get crazy, let's look at it this way. I'm still drawing an imaginary line through the middle of the pip in the middle of that thing. Okay, so from the edge of the pip to the opposite thing, 11.42, 11.40, sorry. And so we're going to do the same one here. Definitely not the same. Come on. Why are you fighting me? The life. What did I say?
11.42.
So, and this is 11.84. So it's almost half a millimeter off, I think. But I mean, it's not centered. It's not centered. So people stop leaving.
If somebody really wants, like, send in one of the watches that it's upsetting you. Apparently that one hasn't come out yet or whatever, but I don't know. Send in one and he will measure it, or measure it yourself and tell us, and that would be cool.
That would be true. Let's give us data. All right, that's it. No. Sebastian, we're making a video.
Can I ask you something?
1 second, please.
Well, he's back.
He's back?
You.
Oh.
Sorry, I dropped my water.
Let's try and get that a little more level. In any case, oh wait, it's Friday.
Do you say that every time?
Why not, honey?
Okay.
You know, some people have their signature phrases, and mine is apparently, it's Friday. I didn't mean for that to happen, but...
Well, I'm glad it's that and not what it was years ago, that the only person that will remember is Saul. You might.
Wasn't anything about Burma shave, was it?
What?
Burma shave.
No.
Oh, okay, well, then I guess that clears up that mystery. I don't know, what did we say?
I want to see if Saul remembers. He always comments, and so we'll see.
All right, well, whatever. I don't remember it. Unless, of course, it does turn out that I was right with the Burma shave.
Nope. What?
Oh, wrist check. Well, this time we're actually going to do wrist check before recording the main video.
Whoa.
I know, it's wacky. You're going to show off an old favorite.
Yes. Look at that. Tell them about it, my dear.
Well, can you pull it off real quick? I love this thing. Years and years and years ago, she liked Mad Men, and Don Draper got one of these. It's a Note 8 Seamaster. It's I think it's Cal 550. But it's lovely. These are automatic, and That is, I believe, the original bracelet, but one of the things I love about it, look real close to the dial. Got this beautiful, like, gold stardust thing going on. It's a really pretty watch.
Yes, it is, and I love it.
Now, full disclosure, I was actually wearing another watch. I'll tell you all about it. I'm still kind of in the honeymoon phase with the this baby, Creamsicle. You know, what's funny, I've actually started seeing people refer to it as that.
Oh, good.
I don't know anything. But in any case, this thing, this one, I'm liking this one so much, it actually pulled me back to another old friend, the SKX011J. And it's really actually, if you think about it, they're kind of like a pair. I mean, the origins aren't exactly the same, and it's an earlier design, but it's almost like, you know, in the watch box, you've got your diver and your GMT, and this is the color setup you like. I tell you, these SKX011Js, like this one has a darker orange. It looks really light up there in the camera, but in reality, it's more of like a tangerine. It's always it seemed wild to me that these didn't do very well, but I'm hoping with the immense popularity, seemingly, of the GMTs, that maybe these 011Js will get another look. See, look, it's the exact same dial layout. And that's where they got it from. And of course, both of these got it from Sua's 7548 dial layout, later used for the SKX007s. Anyway, that's what I'm wearing. So, I don't know, man. I really am legitimately hoping that the SKX011J gets its moment in the sun. I mean, they look like brothers.
Yes. I prefer the newer one because I like bubbles and I like how it's shiny in two different ways.
Mm-hmm. It is. I don't know. I'm going to see if I can screw down, crownify this other one. I haven't finished any of that other stuff. The movement is still intact. I haven't taken it apart yet. I haven't broken the case apart yet. Well, I haven't disassembled the case carefully.
You haven't taken a hammer to it?
It wouldn't do much good if I did. I mean, I put
know.
marking on it, but you know, one thing Seiko has always done well is the casework. Their casework is very, very good. But anyway, I haven't done any of that stuff yet. I desperately want to do it. As I was saying this morning, things just keep happening.
School will start soon enough, and
Sadie, our oldest, is at her driving class.
mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep, that's real interesting. She's a wee tad spacey. I don't know. It's like sort of inattentive airheadedness is I thought was my stock in trade, but that's kind of her thing too. And my cousin Vicky, my uncle Richard's oldest daughter, she's just a little younger than me. She wrecked 4 cars in her teens, totaled them.
Wow.
And then her brother was driving everybody around to some bowling place in some gigantic grandma land yacht in this gigantic parking lot that was empty. He managed somehow to hit the only other car in the entire parking lot, and it was parked.
Wow.
With a whole car full of people.
Did he have his license?
Like, oh, he did. This guy's a PhD. I mean, he works for the government. But you know, he's extremely smart. He graduated from Cornell. He's things, but
If everybody does stupid things when they're a teenager. So.
I have never totaled 4 cars. I've totaled 1 car, and it wasn't my fault. Anyway, let's go for it.
Okay. From Glenham Best. Hey Spencer, I love your videos and watch every week.
Oh my God. Thank you.
I plan on getting a vintage Seiko and am looking at field or dive types. Can you please advise what was the toughest and most reliable Seiko auto movement? I'm pretty much open to years of manufacture. Thanks for any expert advice.
If you're looking for ultimate and extreme Seiko durability, if you're open to their high-end quartz stuff, I mean, a Seiko 7548 is, when taken care of, they're astonishingly accurate and durable. But you said, did he say automatic? Mm-hmm. An automatic is an automatic is an automatic. Seiko stuff is very durable. They build them to run and run and run and run, but they do that to have them build to run for like 5, 6, 7, no, and like 10 years, maybe about more. But so ETAs are beautiful movements, and there's a lot of watches that use those. It's sort of a general workhorse for European styles. Seiko does a lot of work, but don't knock Orient. Orient's movements are based on some of Seiko's really good 60s era movements.
Yeah, but he's asking about Seiko's, not Orient's.
But Orient's, the movement is a 6619. It's a Seiko design, 6619. And Orient actually basically belongs to Seiko. They're different divisions of the same company.
Okay, but if what he wants is the Seiko on the dial, what would you recommend?
Well, first I need to know, do you want vintage or new?
He said vintage. I would think it would be like, a used...
Seiko 7002. Oh, I'm sorry, I just talked over you.
I mean, I would think that would be like getting a used car in that you don't know what it went through.
Yeah.
So that's like with a vintage, I think, what'd you say, 7002 are apparently awesome, but you don't know with the individual watch.
Also, the problem with 7002s is they were so undervalued for so long that just a ton of them got destroyed. And a good one, you can still find great ones on eBay, they still have them, is then you got to get it serviced. But a 7002, especially a 7002 transitional, 7002 is like a 6309, 6105, the bezel goes both ways. To comply with ISO requirements, Seiko made them unidirectional like halfway through the 7002 run. And so those are called the 7002 7039 transitionals, and they say 200 meters on the dial. But other than that, underneath the hood, they're the same. They have the same excellent 7000 series 7002 movement. The cases are every bit as good in terms of their manufacture as what came before, what came after. They're not, they are definitely vintage. They're definitely going up in value. Once they're set up and cleaned with new seals and everything else like that, they're bulletproof. I don't, one of these, an SKX, one of these with all new seals, I wouldn't worry about it at all. In fact, I think of all the watches that I have gone into the ocean with, I think an XKX has been the one with the most trips.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I can confirm you are correct. Okay, next one.
I guess.
Mihai Pascu. So glad to see you excited about a new Seiko again.
Yeah, it's nice to be excited about a new Seiko.
Mm-hmm. I'm so used to him complaining about it, which I'm sure you guys have heard too. They are really doing a great job lately. Check the Black Land Tortoise SRPH17. It is a masterpiece. Check how the dial and the markers are executed, also the hands. Crown at 4 also made a comeback instead of 348 of so many years. The SPB 207, you should also check. You'll be impressed, I promise.
I will look those up. I can't bring either model to mind right off the top of my head. Do you have it on your phone?
Well, I can. Yeah, I didn't, I don't have it as my
your background?
Yeah, my background is my wallpaper.
Did you ever find that picture of Finney again?
No.
Someone had to have taken it. Who took it?
Me.
You took it? It wasn't me? Did I have you send it to me? Is it in our chats?
God, I took it like a year ago.
I could still be in our chats. I don't delete images from chats with you.
SRPH7.
This really is. These deserve SKX011Js. They deserve love. You just kind of have to be... These are one of those models that Seiko produced where there was actually a pretty good variation in the shades of orange and also the shades of gold. Sometimes the gold sort of leans a little greenish. Sometimes it leans a little brownish. And the orange sometimes is not as deep as it should be. Sometimes it's nice and deep, just like this. This has both the things I like. This sort of copperish gold, So it's not green, it's copperish. And it's got the darker, more tangerine colored dial. All right, what you think? Yeah. Oh, okay, so they're using the new 6309 case. There it is. So, I don't know about that handset. I don't mind.
I think that's as good as you're going to get for a bit.
It's not bad looking. It's not bad looking. It's an interesting use of that case. I like the bracelet. Big fat taper oyster. That's pretty cool. And it says 20 bar. It doesn't say 20 meters. 200 meters.
What does the bar mean?
Bars of atmospheric pressure, if I'm correct. It's just another way to measure atmospheric pressure. Speaking of that, I have a question for all you astrophysicists, especially people who are who are greater subject matter experts on exoplanets than I am. Well, not exoplanets. There's this huge on Mars, the giant canyon that's in Mars. It's like 4 miles deep, or something like that. Mars has a very very thin atmosphere, right? 1% of Earth's. What is the atmospheric pressure estimated to be 4 miles down at the bottom of that canyon? And I was like, wonder what you got down there. Well, if you go deep enough, get enough, maybe you'll actually have an atmosphere you can do something with.
Okay.
I'm just thinking.
What are you trying to find? An astrophysicist?
I don't know. Somebody who can tell me how many bars of atmospheric pressure there are at the bottom of the giant trench on Mars.
Okay.
I'm just curious. There's a number.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. I had to have a drink of water.
Okay. Oh, God, sorry for the yawning. Ugh. Okay, Michael Matera. So with the GMTs and the fact it lacks the screw-down crown and the bi-direction on the bezel, well, is a GMT really a dive watch? Isn't it a little conflicted to want true dive watch with GMT function?
Well, it's a good point. The thing with the dive watch is that, okay, let's pretend for a minute that dive computers don't exist, which is what everyone, otters, everybody uses dive computers now. I'm just babbling.
Oh.
But if you needed to depend on a dive watch, you want to make sure that you have only the information you need. You don't want to have any extra information and have to do any mental calculations while you're, dealing with hypoxia. This one, the extra GMT hand could easily confuse somebody with that extra GMT hand glowing in the dark. I don't know. Maybe they made a choice not to put a screw down crown in it so they could not have any financial liability for people thinking it's a diver and taking it into the water and then getting confused, and then there's lawsuits or something. I don't know. It's not a diver. I would call it a sports watch. I would call it a travel watch. It's not a full diver, but it's durable. Heavily constructed case. It doesn't have a screw-down crown, but it doesn't need one because most watches with that level of resistance are fine. It's a very usable movement. Good quality. It seems to be fine. Mine's running fine. I need to adjust the bookity-oop on it, but
The bookity-oop?
the stuff. But it's as a travel watch, it'd be fine. As a good travel watch, it's a sport watch. So I would call it. You could legitimately call it a sport diver. Seiko produced sport divers for a really long time. I have the Alpha and Omega of Seiko 70-meter sport divers right over there. Nobody ever complains about 70 meters being like 100 meters. The only thing is the crown seal. The size of the crown seal kind of makes me nervous. It's really tiny.
Wait, what?
The new SP, these biddly things. A dive seal is big.
Right, that makes sense.
Because you want to have a big contact patch, much harder for the water to get through. The seal that's in this thing is like a quartz dress watch. It's this tiny little thing. But the Arnie button gaskets are incredibly small, and they function just fine. Though they're Viton, and they
You were going to say that.
Not only that, but they have a much wider footprint. Instead of being like a little thin, round thing, they're pretty fat, and they when you take them off, they were molded to have this like lens shape, much more substantial actually than the one in this. I wonder if an Arnie button seal would work in this watch. That's something I will look at. When I rip that case apart for Bluey.
Bluey?
Kablooey.
Kablooey?
Kablooey.
So Creamsicle and Kablooey.
Creamsicle and Kablooey. Any case, when I rip that apart, I'll see if how an Arnie seal does. I'll see. Now I'm curious about that. Crap, I've got so much stuff to do.
Yes.
I mean, I have a lot after, it's great to have tons of projects, but at a certain point I'm like, okay, what's up? Are we even off the first page yet?
No, we only did 3 questions.
I'm so sorry. Should we stop this and have a part 2?
Why?
I don't know, why not?
Well, okay, let's try to stay focused as best as we can.
Yep, let's keep it simple.
Okay. DMITS22. Just in addition to the crown problem, which I noticed on the SRPD that I got when released, it's itsy bitsy O-ring crown that I changed right away, and also with the blueberry and the creamsicle that I got to a fantastic triple sealed crown from one of the aftermarket dealers.
Oh yeah, I looked at that.
I guess if I give the model number, you'll figure out the seller, CT240. If you want to, you should check it out. The first year with the SRPD, I surfed 3 times a week for a year, even during winter in New England, and it never failed.
Okay, so it was the same original 1 crown seal setup, but it was a smaller, thinner crown like this, and you swapped in a heavier one, and then you did a full year of surfing with it. That's awesome. Well, that's awesome and actually very fitting. When Seiko first came out with the 70-meter divers, a lot of their ad material, I'm sure many people remember, because it's been around the forums for years, the original advertising material for those 70-meter divers is people doing like snorkeling, surfing, stuff like that. So that's how they were marketed back then. Sounds to me like it did the job. What up?
I'm reading this question. It's a very interesting story.
Is it?
Yep. Ella Bay Forever. Thanks for your response, Spencer and Sabrina. Enjoyed hearing your thoughts on the Seiko SUN models, as I didn't know you had one. Yep, even a quartz instead of the kinetic, even without the size reduction, the movement change would have been awesome. The loom in my SUN is a killer. Lost my train of thought then, as I had to go sort a fight between a snake and a kookaburra in our dam.
Kookaburras are real?
Rescued from drowning, a dying snake wrapped around one's neck makes a poor life ring. And Snake was mortally wounded by the bird. So good to see you both together doing that call.
Well, I'm sure there's a lesson there, but I'm not the one who's going to look for it.
That was so funny.
Oh, wait, no. Of course kookaburras are real. They have giant beaks. I was getting it confused with those drop bears you all keep talking about.
Okay.
So was there a point?
I don't know. He was saying...
Point? Okay, the point being, kookaburras are real. Okay, good.
He was just talking.
Yeah, there's the SUNs were... They were just so... They had a lot of good ideas, and they made a couple really, in retrospect, decisions that I wish had been made differently. But, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Until they come up with the shrinkothizer, where I can go in and dial the entire watch down by 15%, I just am not going to wear it. It's too big.
You just reminded me. So Sadie and I watched Dog Day Afternoon, and I was like...
What year?
Well, it was based off of the thing that happened in 72, but it was...
Off of a true story.
Yes, but it came out in 75. And honestly, people look at whatever gender they're into at different various parts first. I always look at watches. So guys.
Really?
Yes. So, some...
Wait, what was he wearing?
I'm trying to get to that.
Sorry.
I told you when
Wait,
it happened.
do you want to... It's about a bank robbery. There's a bunch of other...
I don't care. I'm talking about seeing whatever. The Hamilton Phenomatic.
Yes, he was wearing a Hamilton Phenomatic, and she yelled at me. She was like, "Do you know what a Hamilton Phenomatic is?" I was like, "A Phenomatic?" She's like, "No, a Phenomatic." And I'm like, I've never heard of it.
You said Phenomatic.
I was like, I've never heard of a Phenomatic. They did have a Phenomatic.
You were halfway way down the hall.
And then she
to the
comes in.
wash rocks.
She comes in like hours later, and she's like Xenomorph, and I'm like, that's what I said. I said that.
You were going to go wash rocks. You were not.
And
listening.
I did go and wash rocks. Anyway, go on.
Mike D. My G-Shock successfully synced from your state's atomic signal tonight from the coast of Savannah, Georgia. Good stuff.
Cool. I've always wanted to go to Savannah, actually. I always thought that'd be really neat. It was one of those... I don't know how Savannah's looking these days versus how it looked in, like, I don't know, 1900 or something. But I don't know. No, I'm curious. It'd be nice to see. I've never spent any time in the South. Really, Florida doesn't count.
Nope.
Well, that's cool. I'm glad that, you know, Fort Collins is... Look at the size of that thunderhead. Holy shit. Does Sebastian know that? Man, that other one went right around us, too. Oh, I'll insert a picture right now of the thunderhead I saw coming back here.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready?
The answer is always going to be either yes or no.
Connor Whitworth. Am I right in thinking that the MM300 only has a single crown gasket, trip lock on Rolex, which I've always found odd for a saturation diver from Seiko. For a seriously over-engineered professional monoblock diver, isn't this odd that the point of weakness is the crown?
I've never understood why Seiko has relied generally on just one seal. Okay, so we're going back in time. Back to the Marine Master's grandfather, basically. Or father, grandfather.
We're going back in time.
We are going back in time. The 6159 7001, sometimes, some of them, if you see ones that are really early, they'll have a crown that, like, the newer crowns you normally see for those, they're not newer in the sense of like new made. They're original. It's a later production from Seiko. They're flat on the inside, where the bottom of the crown, inside of the crown, meets the case. And those are screw down too. Early ones, you'd see this sometimes, and I'm still not sure of if there was any rhyme or reason about it, but instead of the back of the crown being flat, it actually was recessed slightly, and it had, so you could actually, I don't know if it was meant to do this, but you could have an internal crown and the external against the case crown. So kind of a twin lock. But Seiko just doesn't seem to like doing it. What's crazy, well, I remember the first time I pulled a Marine Master stem, and I looked at it, and it was the seal was crown seal was exactly the same as one of these. No difference.
Why do I remember you doing that?
I have no idea. Maybe I was squeaking about it. I can't believe it.
Maybe.
It's possible that that setup is so good that they don't have to worry about it. And as we know, Seiko loves saving a little few pennies here and there. You know, having one seal is less expensive than having two.
Yeah.
And if somebody's watch floods 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, they're not going to come back to Seiko. What do they care? And off it goes.
Tom N. Hello, S and S. Great to see the interplay between you two. A few random thoughts. Before we all go over the moon on the new Seiko GMTs, ask ourselves whether they've upped the quality on the internal bits, I wonder. Thanks for setting the record straight on the screw-down crown debate. Some claim it is necessary for high-level water resistance, others that it's there only to prevent an accidental fiddle with the crown while diving. My personal observation is that for the sport diver level of WR, most people ask of their watches, a screw-down crown isn't necessary and may be a liability due to the risk of cross-threading it. I have a sport diver 6119-8140 from 1968 that has
So do I.
tan
It's
rim.
right over there.
It also appears to be on the hands too. I'm with you on bro. Only 2 people I call bro are my biological brothers.
I don't call anyone bro.
Well, no, you only do that when you think they're an idiot.
I don't know. I don't know. I must have, somebody must have used it and I didn't like it or something. And so now I have a negative association with it. I just don't. It just seems, I don't know, not my thing.
Here is
Oh, he's dreaming.
I don't care. Here is my input on the crown thing. So, we, not recently, but over the years, often get emails about, I took my dive watch into the water and now it's flooded. What should I do? This watch looks like a dive watch, and people aren't necessarily smart enough to realize that it kind of isn't. And then they go in the water and they flood their watch, and then they email, oh my God, what do I do?
Yeah, well, I swear that's one of the reasons why the 6105s suffered as much as they did, because of course they had a huge crown seal, but it was not screw down, and as a result, because people don't maintain their stuff, they kept going in even after the seal failed, and that's why it's so rare to find 6105s and 62 MASs with undamaged loom, because the seals got old and they died. So that was in part the fact that they were a complicated seal and you had to replace the whole crown. That had to be part of it. That was undone with the 6309s that followed. You could rebuild those crowns. In fact, you still can rebuild those crowns. I do it all the time. But yeah, I don't know. It's annoying. What's going to happen is you know what it's going to mean down the line? These watches, if people treat them like real divers and they wear them all the time, or like their kids find them in their drawer or something and they start wearing them all the time, you're going to see a lot of these die. So 40, 50 years from now, these could be worth real money. Wow.
Ryan Walters. So I think that the standard SSK models can be had for fairly cheap and have the same push-pull crown setup. Perhaps one of those videos would make a good test subject for water torturing. That could be a good video too. Not too much. What?
I'm not going to subject a watch to water torture. Ryan, that's just not going to happen. I'd never do it. I'll put it in.
The look he just gave me.
To put a watch in the line of danger, especially water, I can't even. It's an inconceivable thought to me.
And then you could have the water going, and I can take the kosher salt and.
Don't. It just I have to erase that image from my mind. But, the best way to do it. I could. We never got around to selling that old wet tester. I still have it. I have an empty case. I could do it.
Well.
Maybe I will. Because I'm going to have to strip the case apart anyway. Oh, no, I literally am, because I want to show everybody what's going on. I want to look at how the cases are put together. I want to understand what they changed. I want to know if I can just move all those components to an SKX case. So what I think I'll do then is I'll dig out the pressure tester, wherever the heck it is.
It got moved because I was supposed to list
Did I ever get it back out of the attic?
Yeah, no, it was like in here and then it wasn't.
This is like one of the old school mechanical Bergeon, pressure testers with the arm. Dunka, dunka, dunka. Mine works. I just hated using it. So what I'll do is I'll take the empty case, I'll put it all together, make sure everything's looking good, and then we'll pressure test it, actual wet test, and then we can see how it does. And it's got to come apart anyway, so there you go. And we'll get an answer.
Okay. Francis Palmer. Hi, Spencer and Sabrina. I have a question regarding a 1985 4205-0155 150 meter diver Seiko I have. It keeps excellent time up between the 12 and 6 positions. The second hand jerks and jumps and does not sweep correctly, but seems to run a bit smoother between the 6 to 12. I've heard this does happen, but is it normal? I don't know which one it is.
That's why I should have stapled it. Oh, does it just need a good service because it keeps really good time, losing only a few seconds over 2 and 3 days? Cheers from you, UK fan and Seiko lover. The 4205s are kind of a funky movement. When Seiko started going small, those movements are pretty tiny because they can use them in ladies' watches. They're still nicely made. But part of what Seiko did, they had to save as much room as they could. So the winding bridge and the train bridge are kind of the same thing. And it has an off-center cannon pinion, I believe. It's been a while. But I believe that's the case. They're nice movements. They're tightly built. The juddering hand is not really a big deal. I don't have an exact cause in my brain, but you know, the way that the seconds are set up in that thing, they're tough. You know what's interesting? I was digging through. I was looking at a watch part supplier. I haven't verified this, but they said they had brand new replacement 4205 movements in stock. And I'm like, that's a movement from the 70s, the 80s. I would have thought they'd stopped making those 40 years ago. But I looked and it was there, and they weren't actually that expensive. Is Seiko actually still making that movement? Seems bananas to me.
I don't know.
Oh well, whatever.
Blake Taylor. Yet another great video from the man, the myth, the Seiko legend.
Myth.
What?
Myth.
Yes.
That's when she pokes her head around the tree and says, "Yeah."
Oh. the Seiko legend we all know and love, Mr. KBW. Always enjoy strapping on a Seiko and nerding out with you guys during the Friday night mail call. Question for the next week. What are your thoughts on the 4S caliber that Seiko has used in the past? I know it's a 4 hertz movement and stems from Diny's old 5200 series calibers from the 70s, but any insight as to why they rarely ever used this caliber today? Not cost effective enough? Unreliable perhaps? Another very interesting caliber I discovered, I first noticed it in the beautiful Presage reference number SJE073 from a few years ago, is the 6L35, which is also 4 hertz and very thin, much like an ETA2892. They seem like awesome calibers and I wish they were utilized more often. I'm not a 4 hertz smooth sweep snob or anything, and 21,600 VPH has never bothered me, but it would be cool to see them used more often for the sake of variety and choice in their lineup. Any thoughts or insights or experience you could offer up would be awesome and very much appreciated. Thanks for your time.
The 5200 series of movements that Dyna came out with are very nicely made. They're very nicely made. They have, the kind of Swiss style reduction gear, automatic winding. They don't use the magic lever. And one thing that does is it makes it a lot thinner, lower stack. What it also does, unfortunately, is it means that you have a lot more parts you've got to make. You have to be, like, the winding assemblies for those things are like 4 different gears, each one of which is a multi-part component it's a reversing wheel, plus it's got bushings and jewels. And when Seiko went, I mean, it's basically, it's a beautifully made movement. Seiko, when they designed that movement, it was a super nice movement. There's a reason those watches are still expensive today, relatively speaking. Yeah, we only get a few more minutes. I might have to come back to this. But anyway, really nice movement. So when Seiko decided there was some reason they brought it back, and it wasn't for them. They were gonna wait. I think the thing is that Sin, I think there was some European Oris. Basically, there was a European brand that wanted to. I believe this. No, that was a different movement, but they did do it.
Okay.
Basically, they subcontracted a very nice movement from Seiko that basically, and then they were making it, and they were like, no, this is our own proprietary design. And Seiko was like, no. After Seiko, regular people, researchers were like, this is that. But that was a different movement. The 4S movement, which came out of the 5.2, they're literally identical, screw for screw. Change one, the other. Somehow they must keep all their tooling and all their lines and all their stuff, because they just fired it up and did it again. But we all know Seiko loves saving those pennies. And so they're going to go with a simpler movement in the 7000 series with all of its stamped parts, way less machining, and multi-use single parts instead of components. Like that winding assembly I'm talking about, all that work that has to be done, almost all of that is done the regular Seiko magic lever way with, 6 parts. No multi-part, well, it's not true, the roller bearings are, but you know what I mean. Anyway.
Right?
Nothing.
I wasn't listening, I'm so sorry.
It doesn't matter.
NGHDSJD. The tray says Miko-san.
Ah.
Miko as a place is famous for its woodworking tradition. I almost typed a comment on a previous video to hazard a guess that Seiko had finally looked at their past for more...
Oh, we switched subjects.
Yeah,
we're not talking about the tray.
No.
Now we're talking about something else.
Sorry, it was the same person.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. I almost typed a comment on a previous video to hazard a guess that Seiko had finally looked at their past for more than just superficial design cues and borrowed the mechanism of the 5S19 duo times. Then I realized that it wasn't quite that simple, as the 5619 extra hand moves at the same rate as the hour wheel, but here the GMT hand moves at half that rate. Looking forward to seeing how that has been implemented.
They just have slightly different gearing inside the calendar. I already looked at that. Oh God, it's those live videos on Instagram. I did the disassembly and the review things.
Look.
They're live videos on Instagram. They're both meta, and yet I can't share the video right over.
No, this isn't Meta, this is Google.
What do I know?
Well, I'll look at it later.
We'll figure it out. But in any case, I have videos and I show that exact thing. And you see in the calendar and everything else like that.
I totally know how to do it.
Good, great, because I haven't, and I'm like getting frustrated.
Well,
okay, let's wait. We have to.
You have to go. We're gonna have to come back to this.
Yeah, we're gonna have to come back to it, folk. We got to run and pick up Sadie. I can do it, honey. You don't have to come with me.
I would keep doing the video, but I don't know.
I know you can give a knitting tutorial. Okay, folks. We'll see you a bit. And we're back. Giant thunderheads out there. Nothing coming for us.
It's monsoon season.
It is. So anyway, went to a new parking lot. Never been to this particular parking lot before, and like all the other parking lot dividers, it was of course filled with rocks. And I found some good Ammonites in there. There's some squishy ones, and you could really tell that they were disgusting when they were alive. For those of you who don't know what an Ammonite is, or those of you who don't know why all of a sudden I'm talking about Ammonites, find one of my blanky night Ammonite videos, Friday night Ammonite, Saturday night Ammonite. These, and I'll tell you about it. But for those of you who don't know, imagine an Ammonite, imagine a big snail shell with a squid sticking out of it. Kind of like a nautilus, but they're different. They were a different kind of creature. But that kind of idea.
He's not crazy.
Oh no, I'm not even worried about crazy. I know this is true. I mean, look, I picked up this rock right here. You can see it's the inside of one of the chambers right there. That little hole. See, look. Mm-hmm. We got some good ones. I mean, when we clean these, that's going to be pretty cool. That's going to be a pretty one. That's nice. I hadn't really seen this kind of like coloration before, because you get different minerals when the volcanism happened. If it got hot enough, there are a whole different range of temperatures and reactions. Sometimes the different minerals have different melting points, and they start to separate out into layers.
Did Sebastian pick any?
He got, I'd say...
That one literally has a fossil in it.
Wow.
Do you see it? I know we're in bad light. Right there where my thumbnail is.
Holy cow. Well, I guess we're going to have a Friday night Ammonite.
Woo!
Wow, actually, and look at this. Okay, so what this was, wait, I'm going to save this just so you know. I know what this is. See, look how it's smooth and curved on the outside. This was a complete round piece of river rock that got smashed. So you have part of the outside and then it broke. And you see all this material in there. Anyway, every rock here in this whole area, and I had dark suspicions about how far that area is, they're all these Ammonite impressions.
People on the other side of the planet, please look at your rocks and tell me if there are ammonites.
Well, what you need to do is actually, you need to look at a map of sort of Cretaceous sea levels, Cretaceous and Jurassic sea levels, and see if there was if your area was basically under the Tethys Sea. Because the Tethys Sea at that time, the Earth was really warm and moist, and almost everything was like subtropical or tropical. And Ammonites, you must have been able to walk across an ocean because there were so many gosh darn Ammonites. Anyway, so check that. And then you can watch one of my Friday night Ammonite videos.
Nielsen Gupta. I like the name Bumblebee. Me too.
Oh, yeah, well, I got it.
See, now I like it more now that I gave it that name.
This is the SK, my brain. All I'm thinking about right now is Ammonites. Okay, let's do it.
Keith Rolla. Question for a...
Keith, I'm sorry, Rolla?
Rolla?
Like rock and rolla?
R-O-L-A.
Roll on over, Beethoven. Rock and rolla. I think that's where it's got to be. You can roll a rolla to your friend.
Are you done?
No, I'll keep doing this.
Oh God, this is like in Rick and Morty when
What? Yeah, don't be ridiculous.
yes.
Don't be ridiculous. Would you stop saying that? That's not a thing. Okay.
No. The one when they're in.
Is it the Citadel?
No, the one with the space fart.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're in the car and
yeah, with Krabopolis Michael comes. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Something he's trying to eat, Rocket. He's really worried about something.
There's a fly in here.
Oh, he's scared of insects.
That fly.
That fly.
Okay. I have a 2021 Grand Seiko SBGE255 with the 9R66 spring drive. Pulled it out of my case and threw it on the Orbita to power it up. I know you're not a fan of winders, but I was lazy. My bad. It's your watch. Don't listen to him.
Yeah, also, you're not... Well, I'll go on about winders in just a second. People always get the wrong idea. Nobody understands nuance. Oh, I'm sorry. I just used a statement with no nuance whatsoever. Nuance is hard to pick up.
Okay. It powered to a full 72-hour reserve, and I set it. Screwing the crown in winds it, of course, and it began to run at about a minute to every 5 seconds real time. Gained 2 full days overnight and powered down. I figured, crap, off to Japan for service. I broke it. Checked online, and this is not a new phenomenon. I manually wound about 12 hours reserve on it and wore it normally. Back to being dead accurate. Are you familiar with this glitch, and do you have any thoughts? Cheers.
I don't know the first thing about spring drives. I've held spring drives. I think last time I held a spring drive, we were at that weird watch place way the hell south of town, down at where 235 crosses I-25, like way the heck down there. No, I had to go. It was some corporate work thing. I was down there. We were running a giant training session for all these regional people that were coming in, and we were trying to get them going. But there's an authorized dealer there, and he had one of the first Seiko Anata chronographs that had spring drive.
Wait, I was there?
I swear to God, you were. Either that, or I'm getting confused with Garwood Jewelers.
Now, I've only been to Garwood Jewelers.
You've never been to that giant authorized dealer? Or was it the one that was in Denver? I swear I took you to one anyway. But I've only held them a few times. I know the basic principle of how they work. You've got the mechanical movement that winds and it provides power to the constantly spinning, electrically braked and governed, regulated balance. So you have the powers leached off to electrically run this thing and mechanically run this thing. What would cause that?
You can't really answer it.
I don't know. I haven't really looked at their mainsprings. I don't know how they're constructed. I don't know. The only thing I could think, if it did that, here's my question. Okay, you do this. You got this spring drive. All of a sudden, it's gaining all this time, and it ran down in 2 days. And then when you wound it again by hand, all of a sudden it was fine. Seeing as they're electrically regulated, and they have a CMOS in there, I wonder if hand winding, when it's fully wound, somehow throws off the calculations of the CMOS. Because it's electrically governed and regulated. It's kept to a specific time. And I would imagine it would still do that unless it's getting garbage data. But I don't know how their CMOS works. So that's the only guess I can come up with. Because in theory, they're supposed to run extremely, extremely normally because they have a little brain counting off. Because they're kind of like they're basically a quartz watch that has a mechanical train attached to it. Whatever.
I know it's a thing and they're expensive, but I don't know. My brain doesn't work that way. Sorry.
He's like something
It's a fly. It must have touched him.
He's so alarmed.
Yeah.
He doesn't like flying insects at all.
Well, because he's gotten harassed by spicy bees or spicy flies.
Spicy flies.
There we go.
Okay, let's rock on.
JC Spencer, you were saying the loom.
He just snapped at the air. Ooh, and he turned again.
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there, buddy. Is it a fruit fly? I wish you could see this. He's like, tree speaking Vietnamese kind of thing.
Hey. There we go.
No, he's alert. What is he seeing?
I don't know. Oh, I saw it. No, it is a fly.
Is it?
Yeah, I wouldn't have seen it if I wasn't recording.
You see, he's just keeping himself in a state of ready watchfulness. All right, well, that's that. You send me that video. I'll put it in. Okay, let's do it.
Spencer, you're saying the loom on the early 6306s and 6309s was yellow from the factory? That's very strange to me.
It's one of those things. I'm not aware of any documentation around that. It's been a long, long time. I've owned and sold a lot of these, and this isn't my bona fides. I'm just talking about what I've seen. I've seen them in conditions from pretty hammered all the way to basically brand new. My grandfather tuna, it was basically brand new.
Yeah, but it wasn't brand new.
No, it wasn't brand new, but it was. Here's the thing. I've seen these watches that have this color loom, which is like the 6159 grandfather tunas made in the 70s. That's the only time they were made. 6306s, 7000, 7001s from 76 to basically into the beginning of 78. 6309, 7040Xs, same thing. And I've seen them in all conditions, good and bad. And but that particular combination, that tannish yellow butter loom with the white hands, that's a very particular combination you see pretty much only in 76 all the way pretty much through 77 into 78. You don't see it much more than mid or 78 or that I can think of. Interestingly, I also, when I've seen one of those that had moisture damaged loom, only the hand loom was damaged. The tan dial loom was perfect. I mean, that does happen sometimes, but that was a loom formulation and it came out that way. I don't know why. The one thing is, I can't imagine that they're using that it was a different tritium formulation, but it might have been. Somebody needs to run a Geiger counter over one.
What?
Run a Geiger counter over it. Okay. Testing radiation levels. I don't think that's it, but it was clearly a different formulation because the way that they look is extremely consistent. The way the loom looks, this grain size, how it's applied.
I I mean, I've seen them. They're definitely.
I have one up in the. I have one up in
No,
the.
I know, and I've seen other examples. I agree
Actually-
with Jude that it's kind of weird.
It is kind of weird, but we know that Diney and Sua helped each other out. I don't know about those, but I will tell you this. It's a rare 6159 7010 or 7019 that doesn't have that tan loom. It's rare because their run was short and it was right in that area. So maybe we have to do some research and see if I'm right. But I've seen some that have a lighter tan, but you always see that mismatch. The hand loom is always white and the dial loom is always more, it's not patina, but it's that more butter tan color.
Intazam. I would perhaps buy it for $175, but not for $490. After all, the missing screw down crowd would annoy the crap out of me, so I'd have to purchase a new SKX case with lug holes, one with a screw down crown, and migrate all the stuff into the new case and find a crown with circular brushing, and this is just to remove the downgrades, not mentioning the lack of decent steel case back and classic nicely anodized aluminum GMT bezel insert. Other than this, I like it. Well, also, no, I'm going to say something. Seiko has to, just like Disney has to, appeal to people who are not the hardcore fan people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so, you know what? Having the see-through case back is pretty cool.
I do like the see-through case back. I really like to be able to look at the movement when it's running. It makes me happy.
Yeah, and people would probably, average people would be like, hey, that's cool, I'm going to buy that. Yeah,
and so, I mean, I still think it's a great watch, and even for, that's full MSRP, and you can find them for less pretty much everywhere. It's a fantastic watch. It's a great entry-level watch. Again, I think a lot of them are gonna die because they don't have a screw-down crown, and people are gonna think that they're a full diver because they're gonna be able to turn the crown. Maybe water might get in. That's why you lock the crown down. Not necessarily about keeping it from being pulled out, but just making it so it turns. Because when it turns, you have changing contact patches and you can get water through. You know what actually wouldn't be hard to do? Because I do that repair on 6105 8110s all the time. A lot of them have rusted away their locking pin on their crowns. How hard would it be for me to, and I've drilled them out and tapped them and put new ones in. I've done it regularly. I could put a locking crown in this thing. The crazy thing is, folks, the 6105 crowns work on these. If it wasn't for the fact that the crown tube is slightly too short, they would actually be fine, and you could drop them in. The problem with the seal on a 6105 crown, it holds, but the thing is short enough that when you pulled out the time setting, you're going to be right on the edge of that thing coming out. If it was just a millimeter longer, you could literally put a 6105 8110 crown, probably one of the aftermarket ones you can get for cheap, and you could probably drop that right in there and then get just drill out and put a locating pin in it. You can do it. It probably is harder than I'm talking about, but it's not that complicated. It'd be easier just to switch the cases.
Yes. I was wondering, though, when I was reading that, why you couldn't put a screw-down one in the case, but I know how Seiko works. So.
Well, the way it is the case is drilled out, and then they press another component, the crown tube in, and it has a sort of a bigger end, and you sort of flunk this thing in. What Seiko has done in the past to worry about keeping water tightness is they didn't worry about like brass brazing or doing any of this sort of higher end stuff. They electrically weld it. They basically run a ton of current through it and it welds itself into the case. So I've never been able to drive these things out. You can't like put it in there and get your drift and go ding, 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 and push it out. But you could, I think the next thing is to basically you just machine out the old crown tube. And if you're feeling nutty about it, just put in a generic trip lock. You can do it just like Rolex. Those frickin' things you just drill out the old one completely, you get your taps, you tap out the thing, put your twin lock or trip lock Tubin and Bob's your relative.
Okay.
It's just that easy. No, it isn't.
No. Orville Findlay, 100 meters water resistant is more than sufficient for washing dishes.
Yeah, sure. If the seals are clean and brand new, absolutely. I 100% agree.
Even so, I'm still like paranoid. I'm like, ah!
Well, you see, but this is like a brand new watch. This is as water resistant as they can make it. All the sealing surfaces are clean. All the seals are brand new. It's got everything. It's everything the way that it needs to be. And so I wouldn't worry about this at all. Hell, I'd consider taking this one to the ocean, but I probably wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, I think actually, the more I think about it, the fact that it has a big old GMT hand is more of a diver disqualification than the lack of a screw down. Because it would make it harder to use in outside of its intended usage. And also, of course, it doesn't have a dive bezel. So, I mean, it doesn't have a lit pip. So, yeah, I just think it's not possible. I think the thing is
It's a fashion diver.
Kind of. The thing is they used the same case. That's the thing. They didn't feel like designing a new case for it, which is fine. And it looks good. But they used their diver case. And so you get this crossover. What's that?
Sorry. One more.
Oh, you know what? I'll put the rocket video in at the very end.
Okay. Ignacio Moniz Valenti.
That's a great name.
I'm sorry that I butchered it.
Where is it?
All random.
Ignacio Moniz. Wait, that's a Nia.
Yeah.
Moniz Valenti. That's a great name. I don't speak Spanish or Italian or any of the Romance languages, so sorry.
Great video, Spencer. The accuracy of the watch is really good. Anyway, I don't know if you can move the hour hand independently than the minute hand like the true GMT does. Thank you so much.
No. You can't. You have the first click is for GMT and date. You can mess with those. Second click is for hour and minute hands and hacking. But yeah, no, it doesn't do that. It's a beautiful watch though. What a beautiful piece. Well, I think that's it. It's Friday. Mm-hmm. I think I'm done. I think it's over. Mm-hmm. I think the dog is relaxed. All right. Speaking of the dog, here's the video of Rocket on high alert because of a housefly. All right. Bye. No, he's alert. What is he seeing?
I don't know. Oh, I saw it. No, it is a fly.
Is it?
Yeah, I wouldn't have seen it if I wasn't recording.
You see, he's just keeping himself in a state of ready watchfulness.